broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
No. Brooks is talking about crazy things, but thank you guys so much for watching the Bachelor After Show. I'm Cathy. Danny is out this week, but we have a great panel. Brooks is
Hey everybody,
here.
good to see you.
He's back.
I am back.
You're back.
Yeah, I was in Salt Lake City enjoying some snow and trying to do the sun dance.
At the dance.
Yeah,
We
just
talked
Ted
about that
dancing.
last week. Yeah.
Okay, listen. After Nick introduces himself, then I'm going to tell everybody what I was talking about. It's not that crazy. We play this game all the time.
Go ahead. I'm Nick, everybody.
Everybody knows who you are. Okay, so you know when there's a couple and you look at them and you're like, who got the better end of the deal? And you pick, like, oh, they're fair.
Oh,
like,
I get it now.
they're
Okay.
kind
Depends on all
of
these. It
even.
doesn't really work. It's like.
I know, I'm saying it would be
I mean,
fun
you should
to play
pick a
this
partner
fictitious
who's your
game.
equal.
So
right?
the question is like, are any of these girls like above?
Out of Ben's
level?
league.
Yeah, out of Ben's league.
I mean, you could
No,
argue
I
for
don't-
any of them either way. Like,
Yeah,
a lot of people on the internet were saying that Jubilee was actually out of Ben's league because she was so smart. She's dedicated her time to the
Ben's
country.
Ben's not smart.
It's just different. It's
Nick immediately starts on
you know,
the
there are
defensive.
different sides to the argument of like, I don't know.
Totally.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
digress.
I agree.
We
It's
can
not
play
my
later.
favorite game. You know, but
It's very subjective.
Totally. Well,
Yeah.
it's
it's
when
a
you're
good,
at a park and you're people watching.
It's
It's
great
totally
for people.
subjective.
It's great for people watching at the mall. Or-
Not so good to like play the hypothetical game with Ben and these contestants.
It's just like it's just always Ben. So you could like you can just sum it up by saying, are any of these girls out of Ben's league?
good point.
And that's not possible because it's.
Man, I really got this show started off right.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining us again as well.
Thank you for having me.
We're excited to have you back. Danny is at the Super Bowl covering that, so
Whoop, whoop.
he is missed, but also enjoying his week
But I'm
away.
jealous.
Yeah.
He saw my childhood hero, Joe Montana,
Wow.
and for 4 minutes.
Were you
And-
jealous?
Yeah, no, I really like. I don't watch a lot of sports now just because I don't have time for it. It's not that I don't like sports. I like to make fun of
You're
it.
just not manly?
You don't have
It's
time.
not- yeah.
Like, what do you?
Well, I don't make time. Let's phrase it like that.
I have a lot of
for
time because
sports.
you're an entrepreneur now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
Okay.
too
Shout out to
busy
Salt
being
and Pine.
creative.
But I mean, Joe Montana, I mean, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Joe Montana.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to everyone in chat tonight. Thank you guys for staying up so late. But getting into this episode, what do you guys think overall? I know, Nick, you said it was a little bit slower than
Not
you'd
my
hoped for.
favorite.
By slow, did you mean boring?
Yeah, it was like
I
kind
was trying to be
of.
nice
Yeah.
about it.
It was the least entertaining so far.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I'm a little over the old Olivia supervillain thing.
They really hyped up that whole teen mom comment, and then it was a little bit anticlimactic.
we kind of talked. Actually, that was kind of like the point where I really felt bad for Olivia. I mean, listen, she puts her foot in her mouth.
Who hasn't done that?
Who hasn't done that? Actually, it's funny. I was watching the finale of The Office today on Netflix, and they have a line where they say, "If you film anyone long enough, everyone says something stupid," which is actually totally true. And again,
Definitely
Olivia
said enough stupid stuff.
Olivia is, you know, for my friends on the show, like, you know, the producers, she certainly puts her foot in her mouth, and she has these exaggerated facial expressions.
That would be a great meme if she had her actual foot in her mouth.
Dude, it's actually amazing. There is a Twitter account out there called Olivia's Mouth, and it has like 30,000 followers already, which is far more than any of the girls on the show.
That's
it's actually
incredible.
But
It's more than Josh's
when
scarf.
she made that
More
point,
Milan's beard.
when she made that point about the episode of Teen Mom, listen, it was a stupid comment and it was offensive to Amanda, but that's not what she meant. She was actually
referencing.
She was trying to relate to Amanda by saying, this particular story that you're telling me reminds me of an episode, and I think she was trying to find that familiar. And
because single mom is trying to contact
it was
her
a terrible thing to say.
Children's father to get them to pick.
It was a stupid thing to say, and you could tell that as soon as she said it, she's like, "Oh fuck, what did I just say?" And I actually think her tears were sincere in that moment, and she was like, "I'm trying to work on myself," because she was like, "I'm fucked."
Yeah,
like she immediately.
What else could you do?
No, it was a stupid thing to say, but it almost like in the previews, it sounded like she was just being real catty and real bitchy, and I actually didn't take it that way.
Yeah.
She's ballsy as hell. You got to give her that. Like, she's like, I'm going to go and squash this conversation. I'm sorry we're skipping ahead, but
someone who is on television would know how to filter themselves and what they say,
Absolutely
right?
not in that scenario.
You're not trained for this, Cathy.
No, like she's 23. Olivia's in the very unfortunate position of getting the first impression rose, having early validation from Ben, and then, and then she's that perfect recipe for that person who is very kind of confident in general, loud, and very kind of has that dominating personality. Unfortunately for Olivia is that every week Ben becomes less and less interested in her. And it's like this piling on of the other girls, and it's just snowballing into this.
TikTok really missed an opportunity here.
What?
With Olivia. TikTok really missed an opportunity.
TikTok?
Yeah, you remember the commercials? Can you breathe without a TikTok?
Oh.
Yeah, but
I actually, feel really bad for her. I mean, the whole,
if they brought back the bleachable moment. What?
I mean, that's gonna stick with her. Unfortunately.
So let's just backtrack a little bit. We start off this episode in Mexico City. They've all flown down there. Ben surprises the girls early in the morning to have the one-on-one date, which goes to Amanda. He grabs some girl's weave, sees Lord H in a retainer. Yeah, he called someone out. He's like, whose weave is that sitting on the nightstand?
That was actually, but we didn't find out who it was.
No.
Well, I knew Amanda was going to pop out of bed just like, hello.
I was going to say, why is it that Amanda, when she wakes up and looks like a Disney princess, is, that's just expected. But when Britt did it last season, she was vilified for sleeping in makeup and looking great.
Because she was on her way for being the villain. It was.
Yeah, was Amanda wearing makeup?
I don't know. She looked like she was
that
flawless.
damn good.
Yeah.
She looks that damn
Amanda
good.
can't be the villain. She's too goddamn sweet with her little mousy voice. And
Wait, but Nick brought up a good point. He said literally the same date that they did with Britt. They woke her up at 4:30 in the morning, and then they went hot air ballooning.
Yeah.
The only thing they didn't do is take a nap. But.
Yeah, they missed an opportunity there to stir some shit up.
I don't think that they would have showed that for Amanda.
Yeah.
Probably not. And also, I don't, think Ben's as interested in Amanda as Chris was with Britt at the time.
Do you think that he's ready for 2 children? He says that he is, and he welcomes that.
It would be a big undertaking for any guy. I mean, I don't, Ben's 26, I'm being a 35-year-old, if I meet a girl who has 2 young children, and 2 children under the age of 5, it's a big undertaking. It's, it certainly would give you a moment of pause to be, do I really care about this person enough to, be a father to their children?
Yeah.
I held my breath that entire time because I was like, well, I don't know.
What do you mean?
Personally, Ben, I cued into some things that he does tonight.
Okay.
He does
body language.
He has 2 different voices. He's got Ben voice, which he's trying to, which he uses with most women that he's either unsure about or he already knows that he doesn't have a connection with them, and it's more of a normal voice. It's a talking voice. And then when he's with the girls that he actually has this emotional connection to already,
more fluid.
He uses this softer Ben voice. And with Amanda, he's he does a little bit of both, right? He does the soft voice with her, and so I feel like he's still trying to figure that out, because I feel like that might be a part of it. That could be a challenge. He's 26.
So
in general,
there's a
Ben's
connection
very
there, but he might have a stronger connection with other girls right now, is what you're saying.
Yes.
In general, Ben is very safe, and he's very careful what he says. And kind of to your point, I think with the Amanda, with Amanda in her situation, he recognizes this is a sensitive subject, and I think he's very careful on how he responds to her story.
He's very well spoken with everyone.
He's very thoughtful, and sometimes it may be a little too rehearsed.
Yeah, it comes off a little rehearsed
Safe.
as well. Because I'm like, oh yeah, I know what he's gonna say before he's gonna say it. I'm like, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like again, he says Ben's very good. Like you could look at it both ways. You could criticize Ben and you could compliment him. You could say, what Ben I've noticed is that regardless if he really is into someone or not, he is very good at making each girl feel very special.
Yeah.
And that's a quality, especially in that environment where girls, feel objectified and don't know where they stand. And listen, it's nice to make people feel welcome. At the same time, it also can seem as disingenuous at times because it's clear when we watch it back
who is top,
who he really likes.
Mm-hmm.
But how interesting would that be?
True.
And that's what we say. It's part of his role too. We say every single season. Yeah, it is. So Amanda goes into this date when they finally do get to talk. She says it's hard to focus on herself. That's the biggest challenge that she's had since being there. She starts telling Ben more about her ex-husband and how he didn't really want to spend that much time with the family, who would plan time with his friends, but not ever want to spend time with her and the girls. And then she also found his cell phone, I believe, with messages to other women towards the end of their relationship. Do you guys think that was too soon to share, or that's a piece of her that she needed to in order to progress the relationship?
Go ahead, Jack.
In general, like we talked about this, whether you're interviewing for a job or on a first date, I think it's not necessarily good to talk negative about a former employer or an ex, right? I think it's a bit unbecoming. I think there's a lot of people who have stories that go on the show who have been cheated on, who maybe didn't love. And I know she was an ex-husband, but I think maybe it was information that probably didn't need to be shared, other than the fact that it didn't work out. I was hoping maybe for a better environment for my kids.
So you're saying say less about him.
Why did we need to bash someone we don't know about?
I completely disagree, because I think that getting to know someone, you want to know all of them. And there have been
on a first date?
No, to me this wasn't their first date. This is their first one-on-one, but they've had so much time together already, and especially in an environment where you're supposed to fall in love and get engaged in a matter of 6 weeks. You have to put that all out there as soon as possible.
But I feel like part of Nick's point that he's not vocalizing now, and you did kind of vocalize this earlier, is possibly, I hope that all of these things that she's saying about this guy are true, because
that's
he's
a
being
separate
outed
thing.
as kind of a deadbeat dad on national television.
There's always two sides to every
story.
story.
There are.
I don't know. I just, in a situation, if I were dating someone, I would just want them to be more positive about things.
I just don't have any respect for anyone who's cheated or
I don't either.
A bad father.
And I've had situations like when I was on the show, I could have brought up when I talked about my brief engagement, I could have shit on my ex-fiance if I wanted to, but I just was not necessary, not fair to her, regardless of whether she did things that I agreed with at the time. It's just I think it's a situation where it's unfair to talk about people on national television without, for them a chance to identify themselves.
And I agree with you too, Cathy. I think that
or defend, not identify.
It's important to get those things out there, because otherwise we connect through our vulnerabilities, and if we don't have those opportunities to do that in a setting that they were given, it's never going to come up.
Especially if you've been cheated on, you're going to have a guard up, and I think it's fair to explain that to someone as to why you're feeling that way.
Sure.
I think she even said, she's like, I just want you to know that I take marriage very seriously. This is why it didn't work out.
Yeah, sure.
The way she justified it, and I think the way she handled it.
Don't you think that could have been accomplished by saying, I take it very seriously. There are things that happened. You don't know how it played out, but it was very unprompted. I don't know. I didn't love it.
Honestly, to me, she could have said a lot worse things about him. She could have gone into much more detail, I'm sure, and she didn't. I think she held back a lot, and she was very poised.
You don't know the guy.
I mean, that's from my perspective. She wasn't
I hate when you guys fight.
Well, okay, let's talk about Emily later in the episode.
I didn't love it.
Emily later in the episode, when she was talking poorly about Olivia, she called her a bitch. She said she hated her. Like, all of these things that are very, very negative.
I didn't love that either.
Amanda didn't say any of those things. She didn't seem like she harbored any hate towards him.
I
She was
agree.
just explaining the facts of, like, I found, you know, text messages from other girls. He didn't want to hang out with our family. Like, those are things that I want and I need in a partner.
I get why she did it, right? I get the fact that, like, she felt like, all right, I'm divorced. There's like, that has this kind of taboo, and she wanted to, to tell Ben, it does mean something to me. I didn't just quit on this marriage. I had justifiable reasons. I get that. I would have liked to see her go
Well,
and
on top of that, it's hard. The producers want her to talk about that because we as the audience want to hear that
Connect
as well.
with her, yeah.
So I'm sure there was producers there talking to her like, now's your time. You should share this now. You may not have another opportunity to do that. And of course she's going to want to do that. I mean, I talked about stuff on my first date that I wouldn't have otherwise talked about because I had that in my ear and I was like, yeah, maybe they're right. I mean, they've been through this before. They know what they're doing.
From your experiences, you probably want to share things more on one-on-one dates than you would in a rose ceremony or like group date setting because you think that you might get not eliminated, but you might get your time interrupted.
Yeah, and it all depends on what to your point, like what the individual talks about. I didn't go in there and talk with producers, I've been cheated on and all these things. It made it a big deal, right? I wanted, Andy at the time to know my dating history to a point where she understood it. And so maybe Amanda talked about her ex-husband a lot and didn't have positive things to say. And so maybe she was then encouraged to say that to Ben, but
yeah. Well, it's nice that you didn't have to go. You didn't have to do that later with Caitlin. You didn't have to tell the history. She was like, "I was there. I saw it."
Just like, didn't
I saw the ending.
Like, do I really need to repeat myself?
Yeah.
Anyways, let's move on to the group date, Spanish class. Saying that the hot air balloon date was similar to Britt's. I feel like this was actually similar to the group date they had with Caitlin last season, which Ben stood out. It was, they went to a school and the guys taught
sex ed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the same, but it was the same setting of like being in a classroom.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to
let's be honest,
out.
at this point, this many seasons, it's almost all redundant.
They've got a couple scripts and they go, which one have we haven't used in a while? They're like, well, actually, we used that one last season. Screw it. Who cares? It's what we got.
Yeah.
I loved how they, since we're on that date, how we continued to hear like Mexico, a place known for their fashion. No one's ever even heard of Mexico being a place for their fashion, but they're just like, we're doing it.
Yeah, they really kind of shoved that down our
Pushing
throat. Yeah.
I mean, did Mexico's tourism board sponsor this like entire?
Of course,
it did, right?
Yeah. So I'm sure they got millions for it. Like, because when we went to like,
they're very transparent about that stuff, though.
Well, that's why
they say at the very end of the episode that it's sponsored by
every city they go to. The tourism board in that city plays a big role in, little sites and dates and locations of everything they do.
Yeah. So on this date, they have to, after they learn Spanish, Olivia seems to be the one that is the best student at that half. But on the second part of the date, they go to a cooking class at Carbone.
I actually thought that was a pretty cool date.
It was a cool date, yeah.
Like, you got to go find the ingredients. You're challenged to use your Spanish, and then you've got to get the ingredients and actually make something and give it to the chefs.
Yeah,
I don't think I would have done that great on that date, but I think it's a good date.
Yeah.
No, it's better than having to dress up like something silly.
I would have killed it.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows a lot of like how you work with a team. If you're a good cook, I don't necessarily.
It
think
was a more
that's
applicable date to your point, to maybe learn a little about people as opposed to dressing up like a mariachi person.
How do
and
you
singing a
deal
song.
under pressure?
that'd be
How
weird.
do you work with others? And Ben even said that. So they paired off into twos. Most of the girls were paired into teams, and then Ben was with Olivia. Because Olivia snuck in there first.
Well, and you could kind of tell too, just when they were getting the ingredients, which girls, and we didn't get a lot of time, but
which
I think it was
well
Jubilee,
together.
or which ones that have traveled before. Because when you ask how much it is, you just got to go for it confidently, like set it down. Because if you're like, is this the one? Like, a good chance is you're not going to get the right change back. That's how I always felt.
Yeah.
So I like learned my lesson early. When they say a number and you don't know what it is, you just go, and then wait for them to be like, nope, you need more. And I go, okay. You know? So when they were like, is this the right one? I'm like, oh no, don't do that. That's a bad move.
You're holding out a wad of cash.
Yeah.
And they're
much
like,
is it?
hombre,
It'll be
es estúpido.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of the girls seemed like they were really enjoying their time together, and then Ben even noticed there was a little bit of trouble in communication between Jubilee and Lauren B. Did you guys see that at all?
He
was
mentioned
just-
that, but they didn't really show it.
it,
So.
yeah.
They didn't look like they were having as much fun as the other girls, but it ended up working out because
Jubilee
the
is a pretty good,
cook, yeah.
Yeah.
and she speaks Spanish. I mean, being from Haiti,
Yeah.
right?
And they're like, they're
Just
just
safe.
So if I go down there, is it going to be like, it's going to be called like the eliminated Jubilee? That's what the dish is going to be on the restaurant down
menu.
there. So I also noticed when we were speaking of the girls and or women, whatever word we want to use, that when they're paired off in the teams, was it JoJo and Becca? Were they together? Did they get to choose their teams, or was it assigned?
They did choose their teams. They were also paired up on the school date.
Yeah, JoJo and Becca are like friends.
Yeah, they're
We
pals.
see them all the time,
yeah.
and then there's other ones like that as well. Like where's Emily?
Their Twitter love for each other is real too.
Oh, are they really just tweeting at each other all the
JoJo,
time? Yeah, they're tight. Which Highlander, there can only be one. So.
Oh yeah.
And you know, I had and we'll go into predictions later, but that affected my predictions.
Oh.
That relationship, the JoJo and Becca.
Really?
Thing. Yes.
That early? Why?
Just because it's kind of like the JJ, like the bromance, and now we've got this like JoJo Becca thing.
Do you think that they're focusing too much on being friends and not enough on Ben?
I think I used to have JoJo as my number one. I have her as my number two.
Okay.
Based on Becca?
Just on the fact that I'm like, she's so close with Becca. Yeah. I just don't think.
That might be reading too much into
No?
it.
Okay.
I mean,
feel like some of the
everyone,
girls like
everyone, basically in that house.
I'm not saying that we didn't have it too, but
everyone kind of buddies up with 2 or 3 people.
yeah.
yeah,
there's
everyone does. But
Everyone.
And even the winners of
sometimes
certain
they show
seasons
it.
still
It's not
have
just
best
that,
friends
but-
from that
And
season.
sometimes they show
it's
it. And
awkward,
like,
but
people are always like, oh, they had friends or they didn't have friends. Everyone has friends on every season. Everyone buddies up. And then sometimes they show a friendship and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
I mean,
do you think, even though we didn't get to see
I'll
too
follow
much
up
of
with
it,
something.
that Olivia took full advantage of having Ben to herself on that group date?
I'm sure she did. I mean, she has this MO of always taking advantage of every little bit of time.
And they didn't focus on cooking because their food looked like dog poop, according to the restaurant owners.
yeah, I don't know.
I mean, Olivia is getting picked on pretty hard, but she is obviously playing a role in this. And she's, listen, having been on it, you know, I admire her aggressiveness and the fact that, listen, if you're going to go on and you actually like someone, go for it. Like, it's not about, you know,
Making friends.
making friends and all that stuff.
I was hoping that you would fall for it.
But,
One of the top Bachelor
But I mean,
cliches.
she seems to lack tact, right? And she's it's to the point where it's just like, all right, you know, like grabbing him first, literally every time. There's really no benefit to it. Like, it's usually the person who gets interrupted the soonest, and so like especially in cocktail parties.
Yeah.
Like, first or last, it doesn't really matter. And so for her to always go first, she's just really rubbing
It's
people
like,
the wrong way.
but did you watch the show, Olivia? Like, if that's what
There's
the
no
producers are telling
benefit
you,
to
you're like,
grabbing going
no.
first.
In her mind, it kind of seems like either she thinks this or she's being told by producers, oh, you want to show how interested you are in him because that's what's going to get you the furthest. Like, you need to be confident in your connection, and that is proved by taking him first.
And we have heard that a lot.
Listen,
You
a
would
lot of
think-
the great sound bites you're hearing from Olivia that is piling on to this villain that she is they're just that. The sound bites, there's specific questions that she's getting asked that she's answering. And like she's this crazy face that she makes. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. But what I again when I notice is the things that's like, Olivia, why are you doing that? It's like this unnecessary aggressiveness. There's a difference in that environment of going for it and not like, you know, standing by and missing out your opportunity. But you're gonna get time either way, especially if he likes you, and like annoyingly like interrupting or going first doesn't add any value.
I'm really interested to see how the girls react to her once we see the women tell all, because that'll be a huge tell.
Yeah.
I mean, my guess is she's getting beat up so much she'll come out very contrite and apologetic, and then who knows? Unless she comes out guns and blazing, then yeah, they'll beat her up. But I doubt that.
Yeah. I mean, if you know, like, we had talked about this prior to being live, but if you know that you have a target on your back, getting the first impression rose, there's clearly a connection there. You said that you took more of a back seat after you had that so that you didn't cause more controversy, but Olivia seems to be going the opposite way.
So, yeah, I mean, well, two things when you brought up. I can assure you that Olivia, while filming, like, her idea of what was going on was in no way what we're watching, right? Certainly she was rubbing people the wrong way, and she was made aware of that because girls weren't liking her.
Yeah.
But I don't think she was fully aware of it. Like, we're aware of it watching it back. And so I think she's watching it back being like, oh, fuck. You know, like, I think, especially at first, it was just she was getting time. And when we watch it, she was very much unaware of maybe her actions, how it was being perceived, and how it was rubbing the girls the wrong way. To the point that we're seeing it. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, for someone who had early validation, and granted, she hasn't had a one-on-one, so that's the only difference. Is I got the first impression rose with Andy like Olivia did, but then I also had like the third one-on-one. And so at that point, I had this connection, kind of like, it was more like Jubilee. I was more like Jubilee on the group date, where like Jubilee, she had this early one-on-one. She had this connection with Ben, and then you go on this group date, and you're just like, I don't know how to act, because like I want to like reach for the person because I have this connection, but I feel awkward. I don't want to be too aggressive, where I'm kind of possessive. So I was just gonna stand back, but then, you know, I remember Andy called me out for like ignoring her. And it's just like there's like a no-win situation, and that's the beauty about the group dates is no one really knows how to act. You have a bunch of girls who've either bonded with each other because they haven't had much time with the lead, and you have some girls who have had that time but handle it better, you know. And
did you ever reject Andy's hand though when she offered it to you?
No, but like you didn't see this when it was aired, but the reason, like, this was a while ago, but Andy kind of like at the cocktail party kind of called me out for being a baby on the date, and I was. It might have been a bit exaggerated when you watched it back, but what actually happened is, like, in between ITMs and doing like the training for the miming that we did. Okay. Sorry, I'm like slowly moving this way. Is that she was like snacking on a granola bar, and I just like walked right past, and she was like, hey, and I literally ignored her. I had no idea she was there, and she was kind of pissed about that, and she called me out for that.
Just a misinterpretation.
Yeah, but I was like, I really was like, why the fuck am I on a fucking mime date? Like, this is the dumbest thing in the world, because all I could think about, it was a lot like Jubilee. It was just like, I mean, how does this have anything to do with advancing our relationship?
Well, and last thing about Olivia is, you know, she gets the rose and the group date rose at the end.
That gives her validation too, that she is.
That was an interesting rose.
But I also feel like it puts an additional target on her back, because we saw immediately after all the women saying like, oh, she doesn't belong here, she's rude, whatever. So it's like, she didn't ask for the rose. I'm sure she's not going to deny it if she gets it, but like, just the fact that rose gets given to her makes that situation even worse.
Well,
and
before we get into that rose, can we talk about Jubilee for a second?
Yes.
Because
Let's do it.
This is the point where Jubilee doesn't feel like she has as strong of a connection with Ben as some of the other girls do. She's feeling overshadowed, and when Ben finally takes her away, after he and Lauren B seem like they have a great little time away from everyone,
which was probably like 45 minutes.
I mean, if they got to leave the building, that shows like producers saying that they didn't want them interrupted.
Of course.
totally.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
And the girls couldn't find them to interrupt.
It's not even close how how Ben is with Lauren B versus anyone else.
I would say it is with JoJo.
He likes
arguably.
JoJo a lot. That's for sure. But like, I don't know. You haven't seen as much of Ben
He's
and JoJo.
so comfortable with Lauren B.
Yes,
That's undeniable.
Yeah, he's certainly into JoJo. He's comfortable with JoJo. JoJo is very good around him, and she's very like JoJo really knows how to.
She's empathetic. She's insightful.
Yeah, she's very
She knows when he needs a shoulder.
I think JoJo's one of the most mature women on the show. But with Ben and Lauren, he's just like he's just so natural. He wants to always bring her closer. He's calm. I mean, he was making out with Lauren H on their date, and he had both hands in his pocket. It was like.
Yeah. Well, but back to Jubilee though, where they're having this conversation. I don't know what everybody that's listening felt, but and what you guys felt. But I'm going to voice my opinion, see what you guys think. I feel like Ben really didn't have that much of interest in Jubilee from the get-go, and the things that we heard earlier that we, kind of praised Ben for. I feel like part of that might have been because producers wanted to keep her around, or he liked her more than others, because it came pretty quick, right? They hadn't spent a lot of time, but in your scenario, right, and mine was the same way, where I had a first date or I had early time, and then you didn't know how to act in group dates, it was still okay, like... for Des or for Andy or for Caitlin to be like, hey, we haven't had a lot of time together since our really good first connection. I don't think it's going to work out. See you later.
Well, I mean...
That seems like...
I stood back because I knew where I stood. I mean, I was very confident like that. I mean, with Andy, I pretty much knew it was Josh and I.
She went into this needing validation. And I think we've heard that from past bachelors and bachelorettes, that they know even on night one who their top 2 or 3 are. Yeah.
4 for sure, probably 2 or 3. It's not uncommon that the lead is really into 2.
I think
you've seen that in the past few seasons.
It was apparent that getting to know her, especially on their one-on-one, he had feelings for her. He cared about
Jubilee?
her. Yeah.
I don't know if he actually had
I don't think that it was close to what he shared with Lauren B or Kayla or JoJo.
I give Jubilee a lot of credit because, I mean, there's a lot of people year after year who go on the show and just try to stick around, and they're Jubilee...
I mean, isn't that the goal of if you go on the show to come off of it with a fiance?
Sure, no, but Jubilee is... She's very honest with herself about the situation. Or I think where a lot of girls in Jubilee's position, or a lot of guys for that matter, wouldn't ask the tough questions.
Yeah.
They would skate by. And again, Ben's in a tough position, so it's very difficult to be the lead in general, to talk to people. But he asked, it was kind of a dick move because he asked Jubilee, do you feel a connection between us? And she turned around on him asking the same question. And hey, I give Ben credit for being honest, but then he just flat out said no. So why is he asking her in the first place if he doesn't feel it? And so if she didn't ask that question, she'd probably still be here.
I don't think so.
I do.
Because the subject matter that of their first date,
he wouldn't have sent her home on that date.
No way, they're on their date, but he had no other option but to play into Jubilee and be like, wow, thank you for sharing those things, because otherwise we'd be like, this guy, he's an asshole, So I think that was a product of the subject matter, that first date, and I think they had fun, and there was maybe a small connection, but he realized over time, okay, now that I'm not in that space and I'm not having that conversation, I think I feel like he went into that conversation. And that's what his intent was.
She said in this moment, and I quote, "I don't want you to feel like I'm pulling back because I'm not. But I saw her pulling back tonight. She physically pulled her hand back. There were so many instances where I feel like in this group date setting, even before the group date setting, when they were calling out the names, she had already put up a huge guard.
Yep.
Sure, but justifiably so.
But couldn't any of the girls put up a huge guard justifiably so?
She asked Ben. Ben sent her home when he asked her.
It's a weird situation.
Sure, but she had the foresight to sense that Ben wasn't as into her as some of the other girls,
that's
and
what
she
it is.
That's how she handled it. Ben's speaking Spanish to all these girls in this like learn how to speak Spanish, and he's saying I love you to all these girls, most of the girls don't understand what he's saying. She understands every word, and she just calls them out being like, you've said this to 4 other girls. She's
like, you're proposing to me when you did that to 6 other girls.
Like, listen, again, like a lot of people in the situation would be like, ha ha ha, whatever. She likes Ben.
She's her.
She thinks that Ben doesn't. She senses that Ben's more into Lauren, which he is, and more into JoJo, which he is.
I think we're arguing the same thing. Like, I don't think that she has anything to apologize for. I really respect that she was herself this entire process. But I also agree that, like, there wasn't, if he really truly saw her as his fiance at the end of this, he would have validated her feelings.
For sure.
I took, when she said pulling away, I took it as she doesn't want to pull away. She wants Ben to like her, and she wants to feel that reciprocation. And so it's like, I don't want to be doing this, but this is why I'm doing it.
Did he handle it as well as he could have? Definitely not. But I think that he was also blindsided by, he didn't expect to go into the conversation. He seemed like he was excited to talk to her. He reached out, grabbed her hand, excited to go into this, and then it wasn't a great conversation.
I think he had his reservations beforehand, and to your point, her reaction to everything kind of just put the last nail
Jubilee
in the coffin.
is definitely not the norm in terms of typical cast members. And again, the lead's always encouraged to get people to express their feelings and ask those questions. And most people in Jubilee's shoes wouldn't turn around and be like, well, how do you feel about me? There are people in that situation, myself included, are kind of afraid to be like, well, ask those direct questions because they're under this understanding that they're not allowed to answer. And people sometimes are afraid to ask the questions when they don't want that honest response.
You're basically saying, you know, Jubilee had a lot of confidence in the sense of like, she did her own thing.
Because I think that most people in that situation, I mean, I remember in both seasons, you can tell which guys kind of knew that, like, Caitlyn and Annie weren't into them, and they just kind of like, well, when they send me home, but until then I'm going to have fun with my boys.
A lot of the girls did seem like they were asking for validation tonight, though. Like, they didn't flat out say, how do you feel about me? Are you falling in love with me? But they were saying, you know, I feel a little bit uncomfortable. Like, I just want to know where I stand.
Including JoJo, when she was like, I don't want to be blindsided. I feel like that's also a question, you know. Validation.
But JoJo said it differently. She's just like, we have a connection, and I don't know where it's going to go, but don't blindside me. And Jubilee was like, I don't know if you like me that much. And at this moment, you know, and you could tell, like, Ben was like, okay, Ben basically answered that question by saying, there is no way you're going to surpass Lauren and JoJo and maybe even Amanda at this point.
And last thing about that, since we're talking about validation, I don't think that there's anything wrong. All of us need that, right? That's the whole point. Especially in this environment. So them asking for validation is fine.
No, I like
some have done it.
It's just a different way.
Ben was definitely caught off guard. Did he handle it the best way? No, but he's also in a difficult situation. And I give him credit for being honest.
He didn't even seem like he knew how to address it after Jubilee left. He went back to the date and was addressing the girls, but JoJo cut in and said, like, she could tell there was something wrong.
She came across really well there, I thought.
He was sad. Moment. She wanted to support him. And then Olivia is the surprise, which you had talked about. She ends up getting the group date. Ben says this is someone who's struggled for a while, so that was him kind of giving her validation.
It felt insincere.
You think so?
I mean, I love my producers. I just feel like the reaction we got from that rose was exactly what they wanted.
The girls were shocked, and that definitely...
I mean, think of the connection he had with Lauren, and even JoJo, and then also Olivia gets the rose. It just seemed a little fishy.
But if you're giving the group date rose to the same person every single time, that's gonna get...
Sometimes it happens.
I
mean...
It happened with Emily's... Or when... Emily was
Nikki,
a contestant.
Like, with Juan Pablo, get it all the time. I watched that season going on to Emily's. I feel like she does.
Well, and it's the roses mean more to the contestants than anybody else, right? So we hear immediately after, as I previously said, all the women talking about how unfair it is that Olivia got the rose, and it's like...
But it's interesting, she hasn't got a one-on-one, you know, which is, you know, she's get those first impression rose, and she's getting these group date roses. It's like, why don't you give her a one-on-one then?
Well, and
all of a sudden, like, Lauren H., where did she even come from? It's like,
well, Ben said that he was kind of surprised at, you know, Olivia, and we always see the Bachelor or the Bachelorette surprised at who the villain is, and we're like, how did you not see this from a mile away?
The lead's often kept in the dark as much as the cast.
But it's also like, if you've seen the show, you know how it goes as well. Like, I feel like if I was the Bachelor at this point, I'd be like, oh, she's the villain.
Christine S. said that she thought JoJo should have gotten the group date rose.
Hell yeah.
And Joseph Bozo says Olivia is the producer's dream.
Yeah, I mean...
And hell yeah with that.
I'm very close with JJ. Well, both JJs from the 2 seasons I was on. But Olivia, in a way, kind of reminds me of JJ. Because JJ will say anything. And it's usually, in person, hysterical and fun and great to be around.
Taken out of context on a TV show.
But taken out of context where you're getting sound bites, it's like, it's a nightmare. And it didn't work out well for JJ on The Bachelorette. It worked out well for him on Paradise. But, yeah, I mean, like... Olivia she just has diarrhea of the mouth all the time.
Let's get into the last one-on-one date. Lauren H., who's a surprise from all of us, she got the one-on-one date. They started by going shopping in Mexico, find out they're actually walking the runway together because when you think of Mexico, you think of fashion.
Yep.
Screw London and Paris and Milan.
Yeah.
New York.
As they're getting ready to walk the runway, Lauren begins crying because of nerves, but Ben calms her down.
He's
and
very
says,
good at. He's very good at that. And very good at.
There are
making
models
each girl feel special.
all around them, and he says, "There's no girl here that's as beautiful as you."
And he sold it too. Like I actually believed him, even though we all knew it was a lie.
I completely believed him.
Yeah.
And then Ben says later in the date, after they walk the runway, that he sees a new side to Lauren H., especially when they were on the dinner date.
What side do you think that was? What do you
As he had his
by that?
hands in his pockets while kissing her. Yeah.
I didn't get that much from this one-on-one date. I don't know if you guys
Super
got something
boring.
else, especially during the dinner.
The only thing I got from it is that Ben makes a great runway model.
He did a great job on
like
the
I liked his
He
hair
even
better.
got the wink down,
Oh yeah, he was very fluid. Yeah, that was about it. Like I didn't even know Lauren H. was on the show.
Also a date that doesn't lend itself to a lot of conversation. Like they're back getting their makeup and like, you know what I mean. It's not a. It's
They did
not a
have
date
dinner,
for
though.
intimacy. Yeah.
where it was just them able to converse.
Okay, a small thing. I don't know if this was yours deal. Our dinners were always just there for show.
Yeah, you can't eat. I've heard that before.
You always
we'd eat before and then be like, oh, I have.
It is edible food.
It is,
but for
cold.
continuity,
It's cold edible food.
That's what it is, right? For continuity, they can't have you eating during the date because if they
want conversation.
Well, they want conversation, but also
they didn't want the
if
shots
they
and
take
clips.
something, if the edit is out of context, like say they
your
want a
glass
certain
is gone,
answer
or-
to something and they cut to you, and like in the wide shot, it's your meal is fully done, and then like they cut to you and there's no food on the plate.
I mean, I guess, but no one's ever told me you couldn't eat it. Like, in fact, I may have.
I nibbled a little bit too, but I think that they realize like we're not getting a lot of shots of the food.
You always eat before.
Always
in between the day and the night. You're always.
Do you eat with the person or
No.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Some hotel room.
Because they always want you
Sweaty.
on camera together.
Yes, very
Sweaty.
like you will almost always, like, for example, my first one-on-one with Andy, they let us ride in the same car for a portion of it, which was very rare, but our date started late, and again, like, at the time, I didn't know, but Andy really liked me, and so she wanted more time, and so she asked, right? And so, but usually you almost never travel because to that point, if you say something of note...
It's not on camera.
It's not on camera.
You can't progress the relationship off camera, according to producers. So they wrap up this date. He says it went well. We go into the cocktail party and rose ceremony. This is where JoJo said she doesn't want to get blindsided because she does have feelings that are starting to happen for Ben.
He was pretty adamant about not blindsiding her. I mean, which is interesting because most times...
Someone's going to get blindsided.
Most times the lead will say something very PC like, well, I can't really promise anything, and I certainly hope that never happens, but let's just see how things go. Ben was like, no, I promise I won't do it. I mean, that was one of my favorite Ben responses, whether it comes back to bite him in the ass or not, where he stood by something, as opposed to often Ben's very...
Which means it is going to come back and bite him in the ass, because if JoJo's at the
They didn't have to
end,
show that.
if JoJo's at the end, like I suspect she will be with Lauren B, and he chooses
that's a
Lauren
prediction.
B, he's gonna be like, he can't just be like, oh hey JoJo, by the way, I'm choosing Lauren B. I don't want to blindside you.
Well, if that,
nope, blindside Kevin.
If it plays out the way you just predicted, that would be a talking point for JoJo at
Yeah. That's how it's gonna happen.
So, speaking of Lauren B, she tells him she can see a life with him.
No, not a life. A life.
A life.
Like a lifelike.
Like a life.
A lifelike.
Life.
Life.
Amanda said so many likes in her date. Since you guys are talking about lives.
Life. Like a life.
And during this cocktail party is when Olivia says the teen mom comment.
Yeah.
So you guys think that was taken out of context, or?
I don't think Olivia was intending to be insulting. It was very insulting, and it was poorly worded, and it was stupid.
You can be completely, like, say the most
as soon as she said it, the look on Olivia's face was like, fuck.
Yeah. You can say the most horrible thing ever and not mean it to be rude, but it's just an ignorant comment.
100%. Totally agree.
What did you think, Brooks?
I've had moments like that. I remember one right offhand. I was talking to somebody not a week ago, and I go, you know who you look like? And he goes, who? And I go, Joe Rogan. And then I realized that's not a compliment. And I'm like, I wasn't meaning for it to be a compliment. He did look like Joe Rogan, but I'm like, it's not the nicest thing to say, because he's like, oh, really?
But it's also the way...
Why is that not a compliment?
I don't know. Like, the way he took it, I was like, oh, he doesn't see this as a compliment.
No. I refer to a lot of my, like, guy friends as sir, and I said that to someone, and it really offended them on the phone today. Yeah, they're like, I'm not a sir, never
But
call
how did
me
you say
sir.
it? Excuse me, sir?
People are so
hello,
sensitive.
sir.
Oh,
Like
really?
a nice,
Yeah, screw that
They're
guy.
like, I feel old when you say that. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Olivia definitely has foot and mouth syndrome.
Yeah, but it's also the way that you recover from that.
So.
Like, if you own up to it and you apologize.
She
like,
did,
she did, but I think it could have been more
tears?
sincere, too. And, like, if someone's offended you multiple times in the past, and then they do another thing, that could have just been the tipping point.
She started crying. She was like flat out like, I need to work on myself. I don't know what else you to say other than like, I need work.
Yeah. And then this comment prompted both Emily and Amanda to talk to Ben about Olivia.
Which to me means, and I think you said this earlier, is that Ben's not ending up with either of them, because
that always happens.
They always say, don't shoot the messenger. The reason they say that is because they always shoot the messenger.
Yeah. Well, he seemed to respond to it, taking action immediately, which we'll see next week. I didn't like the one line that Emily said, I feel this way, and a lot of the other women feel the same way. I don't like, if you're gonna talk badly about someone, like, own it, don't put it on other people.
Yeah.
It's an interesting position to be in, because, you know, on 2 seasons, certainly being the villain on Andy's season, but, you know, coming in to Caitlin's season, I came in the 4th episode. I mean, I can see how, like, that looks pretty shady. You know, I knew when I came in, I assumed that the guys would be hating on me. They were actually, for the most part, really great. But, like, every week I had to constantly answer questions. You know, and Caitlin knew why I was there, and Caitlin knew the legitimacy, and, like, a lot of people didn't know, but she knew, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, it had to be a talking point and things like that.
Yeah.
And obviously it was constantly talked about. So it's a little bit different. So it's kind of, you know, you want to be, like, objective, where it's just like, well, these people are catty. And I think as a lead, Ben knows how things work. And I'm sure he's not like, Olivia's a terrible person.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure there's, but I think when you get enough of it, it's like, oh, what's going on?
Amanda did have valid points, though, of her saying it wasn't just this comment. She felt targeted by Olivia from week 1.
Look, Amanda has every reason to be offended by Olivia, and has every reason to say something. And who's the other twin?
Emily.
She just is like 22 going on 13, and she's, you know, misses her twin, and Ben doesn't really like her.
Which I love how they did that in her ITM. They had her call Haley.
Which was like...
Got her more emotional.
And they got her more emotional, and really just unloaded. Like, she was funny there, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Bethany Van Sluten says in chat that Olivia saying sorry seems so fake.
I actually took it as like she was like, fuck me. Like I think she realized she really fucked up.
I think she did too.
Either way, it was stupid and rude.
Well, that brings us to the end of our show. That is all the time we have. But thank you guys so much for coming in. If people want to continue the conversation, of course, leave us comments on our YouTube page. Let us know what you think. Where can they find you, Nick?
Instagram, Nick Viall, and then Twitter is Viall Nicholas.
You guys, that's wild.
Yeah, that's so long.
You can find me on Facebook.
That's
I'm
right. Really
super into Facebook right now. On the return to Facebook.
Accepting friendship requests.
Accepting friendship requests.
I should probably
tonight.
I think mine's. I never go.
I know. I've been back on it. Anyway, and you can find me on Twitter at Brooks Forster. I love you guys.
Yeah.
I mean that.
You love them?
Yeah, I love everyone.
Doodles and noodles.
Yeah, keep tweeting me.
So you can find me on Twitter at Catherine Kelley and on Instagram at Cathy Kelley. I also have to announce that this is actually my last week at AFTERBUZZ.
No!
But big congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Exciting
Whoa!
So, yeah, follow me on the social media to find out where I'm going. I'll hopefully be able to announce it soon.
Can I have my Cathy Kelley boy shirt? Do you make those?
Guy shirts.
You
I'm
do?
a Cathy Kelley guy, yeah.
Can I have one before
They're
we
online, yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna wear it to the next show.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you guys for letting me do this and being here. The Bachelor, Bachelorette was my very first show at AFTERBUZZ 4 years ago. So it's been a great journey, and I seriously appreciate every single one of you.
You're not gonna cry, are you?
I did on the last
so
show. I'm all
insensitive.
like teared out. So thank you guys so much. Danny Hoyt will be back next week, and yeah, continue watching the rest of the season. It'll be fun.
All right,
Thanks,
see you
guys.
guys later. Have a good night.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.